All right, Chad, day 4, reading for 20 minutes. Let's go. My dad used Larry Bird as an example to teach me about habits when I was a kid. Larry Legend is known as one of the greatest professional basketball players, but he wasn't known for being the most athletically talented player. Nobody would have described Larry as graceful on the basketball court, yet despite his limited natural athletic ability, he led the Boston Celtics 3 world championships and remains one of the best players of all time. How did he do it? It was Larry's habits, his relentless dedication to practice and to improve his game. Bird was one of the most consistent free throw shooters in the history of the NBA. Growing up, his habit was to practice 500 free throws shots every morning before school. With that kind of discipline, Larry made the most of his God-given talents and kicked the butts of some of the most gifted players on the court. Like Larry Bird, you can condition your automatic and unconscious responses to be those of a developed champion. This chapter is about choosing to make up for what you lack in innate ability with discipline, hard work, and good habits. It's about becoming a creature of champion habits. With enough practice and repetition, any behavior, good or bad, becomes automatic over time. That means that even though we developed most of our habits unconsciously by modeling our parents, responding to environmental or cultural associations, or creating coping mechanisms, we can consciously decide to change them. It stands to reason that since you learned every habit you have, you can also unlearn the ones that aren't serving you well. Ready? Here goes. Start by thinking your way out of the instant gratification trap. We understand that Scarf and Pop-Tarts won't slenderize our waistlines. We realize that logging 3 hours a night watching Netflix or scrolling on social media leaves us with 3 fewer hours to read a good book or listen to a terrific audio program. We get that merely purchasing great running shoes doesn't make us marathon ready. We're a rational species. At least that's what we tell ourselves. So why are we so irrationally enslaved by so many bad habits? It's because our need for immediate gratification can turn us into the most reactive, non-thinking animals around. If you took a bite of a Big Mac and immediately fell to the ground, clutching your chest from a heart attack, you might not go back for that second bite. If your next puff of a cigarette instantly mutated your face into that of a weathered 85-year-old, chances are you pass on that too. If you failed to make that 10th call today and were immediately fired and bankrupt, suddenly picking up the phone would be a no-brainer. And if that first forkful of cake instantly put 50 pounds on your frame, saying no thank you to dessert would be the true piece of cake. The problem is that the payoff or instant gratification derived from bad habits often far outweighs what's going on in your rational mind concerning long-term consequences. Indulging in our bad habits doesn't seem to have any negative effects at all in that moment. You don't have that heart attack. Your face doesn't shrivel up. You're not standing in the unemployment line and your thighs aren't thunderous, but that doesn't mean you haven't activated the compound effect. It's time to wake up and realize that the habits you indulge in could be compounding your life into repeated disaster. The slightest adjustments to your daily routines can dramatically alter the outcomes in your life. Again, I'm not talking about quantum leaps of change or a complete overhaul of your personality, character, and life. Super small, seemingly inconsequential adjustments can and will revolutionize everything. The best illustration I can give you to emphasize the power of small adjustments is that of a plane traveling from Los Angeles to New York City. If the nose of the plane is pointed only 1% off course, almost an invisible adjustment, when the plane's sitting on the tarmac in Los Angeles, it will ultimately end up about 150 miles off course, arriving either upstate in Albany or in Dover, Delaware. Such is the case for your habits. A single poor habit, which doesn't look like much in the moment, can ultimately lead you miles off course from the direction of your goals and the life you desire. Most people drift through life without devoting much conscious energy to figure out specifically what they want and what they need to do to take themselves there. I want to show you how to ignite your passion and help you aim your unstoppable creative power in the direction of your heart's dreams and desires. Uprooting bad habits that have grown into mighty oaks is going to be arduous and difficult. To see the process through will requires something greater than even the most relentless determination. Willpower alone won't cut it. Finding your mojo, your why power. Assuming willpower is what you need to change your habits is akin to trying to keep a hungry grizzly bear out of your picnic basket by covering it with a napkin. To fight the bear of your bad habits, you need something stronger. When you're having trouble doing the hard work of achieving your goals, it's common to believe you simply lack willpower. I disagree. It's not enough to choose to be successful. What's going to keep you consistent with the new positive choices you need to make? What's going to stop you from falling back into your mindless bad habits? What's going to be different this time versus the times you tried and failed before? As soon as you get the slightest bit uncomfortable, you're going to be tempted to slide back into your old comfortable routine. You've tried willpower before and it's failed you. You've set resolutions and you've let them go. You thought you were going to lose all that weight last time. You thought you'd make all those sale calls last year. Let's stop the insanity and do something different so you can get different and better results. Forget about willpower. It's time for why power. Your choices are only meaningful when you connect them to your desires and dreams. The wisest and most motivating choices are the ones aligned with that which you identify as your purpose, your core self, and your highest values. You've got to want something and know why you want it, or you'll end up giving up too easily. So what is your why? You've got to have a reason if you want to make significant improvements to your life and to make you want to make the necessary changes. Your why must be something that is fantastically motivating to you. You've got to want to get up and go for years. So what is it that moves you the most? Identifying your why is critical. What motivates you is the ignition to your passion, the source for your enthusiasm, and the fuel of your persistence. This is so important that I made it the focus of another book, Living Your Best Year Ever, a proven system for achieving big goals. You must know your why. Why everything's possible. This thing hot, boy. I don't need all that. Why everything's possible. The power of your why is what gets you to stick through the grueling, mundane, and laborious. All of the hows will be meaningless until your whys are powerful enough. Until you set your desire and motivation in place, you'll abandon any new path you seek to better your life. If your why power, your desire isn't great enough, if the fortitude of your commitment isn't powerful enough, you'll end up like every other person who makes a New Year's resolution and gives up too quickly and reverts to sleepwalking through poor choices. Let me give you an analogy to bring it home. If I were to put a 10-inch wide, 30-foot long plank on the ground and say, if you walk the length of the plank, I'll give you $20. Would you do it? Of course, it's an easy $20. But what if I took that same plank and made a rooftop bridge between 200-story buildings? That same $20 for walking the 30-foot plank no longer looks desirable or even possible, does it? You'd look at me and say, not on your life. However, if your child was on the opposite building and that building was on fire, would you walk the length of the plank to save him or her? Without questioning immediately, you do it, $20 or not. Why is it that the first time I asked you to cross that sky-high plank, you said no way, yet the second time you wouldn't hesitate? The risks and dangers are the same. What changed? Your why changed. Your reason for wanting to do it. You see, when the reason is big enough, you will be willing to perform almost anyhow. To truly ignite your creative potential and inner drive, you have to look beyond the motivation of monetary and material goals. It's not that those motivations are bad. In fact, they're great. I'm a connoisseur of nice things. But material stuff can't really recruit your heart, soul, and guts into the fight. That passion has to come from a deeper place. And even if you acquire the shiny objects, you won't capture the real prize, happiness and fulfillment. In my interview with peak performance expert Tony Robbins, he said, I have seen business modules achieve their ultimate goals but will still live in frustration, worry, and fear. What's preventing these successful people from being happy? The answer is they have focused only on achievement and not fulfillment. Extraordinary accomplishments does not guarantee extraordinary joy, happiness, love, and a sense of meaning. These two skill sets feed off of each other. It makes me believe that success without fulfillment is failure. Well said. That's why it's not enough to choose to be successful. You have to dig deeper than that to find your core motivation to activate your superpower, your why power. Core motivation. The access point to your why power is through your core values, which define both who you are and what you stand for. Your core values are your internal compass, your guiding beacon, your personal GPS. They act as the filter through which you run all of life's demands, requests, and temptations, making sure they're leading you toward your intended destination. Getting your core values defined and properly calibrated is one of the most important steps in redirecting your life towards your grandest vision. If you haven't already clearly defined your values, you may find yourself making choices that conflict with what you want. If, for example, honesty is a big thing to you, but you hang out with liars, there's a conflict. When your actions conflict with your values, you'll end up unhappy, frustrated, and despondent. In fact, psychologists tell us that nothing creates more stress than when our actions and behaviors aren't congruent with our values. Defining your core values also helps make life simpler and more efficient. Decision making is also easier when you are certain of your core values. Once I went through the practice of figuring out my own core values and boiled it down to the top three: growth, excellence, and impact, decision making at both the macro and micro level became much more clear and purposeful. When faced with a choice, ask yourself, does this align with my core values? If it does, do it. If not, don't, and don't look back. All fretting and indecision are eliminated. Find your fight. People are either motivated by something they want or something they don't want. Love is a powerfully motivating force, but so is hate. Contrary to social correctness, it can be good to hate disease, hate injustice, hate ignorance, hate complacency, and so on. Sometimes identifying an enemy lights your fire. Some of my greatest motivation, determination, and dogged persistence came when I had an enemy to fight. In history, the most transformational stories and political revolutions came about as a result of fighting an enemy. David had Goliath. America had the British. Luke had Darth Vader. Rocky had Apollo Creed. 20-somethings have The Man. Pepsi has Coke. DC has Marvel Comics. Taylor Swift has Kanye West. We could go on, but you get the point. Enemies give us a reason to stand tall with courage. Having to fight challenges your skills, your character, and your resolve. It forces you to assess and exercise your talents and abilities. Without a motivating fight, we can become fat and lazy. We lose our strength and purpose. Some of my mentorship clients worry that their why power derives from less than noble goals. They feel guilty for wanting to prove the naysayers wrong, or wanting to get back at that person who said they never amount to anything, or beat the competition, or finally one up a sibling who always dominated them. But really, it doesn't matter what the motivation is, as long as it is legal and moral. You don't have to be motivated for great humanitarian reasons. What matters is that you feel fully motivated. Sometimes that motivation can help you use a powerfully negative emotion or experience to create an even more powerful and successful end. This is certainly true of one of history's most celebrated football coaches, Pete Carroll. Pete explained his early motivation to me like this: when I grew up, I was a little dink. I couldn't do much because I was just too small. It took me a couple years to get in a place where I could be competitive. All that time, I was living with the fact that I was much better and I needed to fight to prove it. I was frustrated because I knew I could be special. Carroll's need to fight ultimately brought out his greatness. In an interview with acclaimed actor Anthony Hopkins, I was surprised to learn that his extraordinary talent and determination blossomed from anger. Hopkins admitted to being a horrible student burdened with dyslexia and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder before such diagnosis existed. He was shackled with the label problem child. I was a source of worry for my parents, Hopkins revealed. I had no apparent future because schooling and education were important, but I didn't seem to have the ability to grasp what was being taught to me. My cousins were all brilliant. I felt resentful and rejected by a whole society and was very depressed. Hopkins harnessed his anger. At first, it propelled him to fight to achieve success outside of academics or athletics. He discovered he had a glimmer of talent in acting, so he used his anger toward the belittling labels he'd been given to fuel his commitment to the craft of acting. Today, Hopkins is considered one of the greatest actors alive. As a result of the fame and fortune he's acquired, Hopkins has been able to help countless people in the fight to recover from substance abuse. In addition to supporting important environmental work, though initially it wasn't grounded in a noble cause, his fight was clearly worthwhile. We can all make powerful choices. We can all take back control by not blaming chance, fate, or anyone else for our outcomes. It's within our ability to create change. Rather than letting past hurtful experiences sap our energy and sabotage our success, we can use them to fuel positive, constructive change. Goals. As I mentioned before, the compound effect is always working and it will always take you somewhere. The question is, where? You can harness this relentless force and have it carry you to new heights. My bad. But you must know where you want to go. What goals, dreams, and destinations do you desire? When I attended the funeral of Paul J. Meyer, another mentor of mine, I was reminded of the richness and diversity of his life. He achieved, experienced, and contributed more than dozens of people combined. His obituary made me reassess the quantity and size of the goals I set for myself. If Paul were here, he would tell us, if you are not making the progress that you would like to make and are capable of making, it is simply because your goals are not clearly defined. One of Paul's most memorable quotes reminds us of the importance of goals. Whatever you vividly imagine, ardently desire, sincerely believe, and enthusiastically act upon must inevitably come to pass. The one skill most responsible for the abundance in my life is learning how to effectively set and achieve goals. Something almost magical happens when you organize and focus your creative power on a well-defined target. I've seen this time and time again. The highest achievers in the world have all succeeded because they mapped out their visions. The person who has a clear, compelling, and white-hot burning why will always defeat even the best of the best at doing the how. How goal setting actually works. The mystery secret revealed. You only see, experience, and get what you look for. If you don't know what to look for, you certainly won't get it. By our very nature, we are goal-seeking creatures. Our brain is always trying to align our outer world with what we're seeing and expecting in our inner world. So when you instruct your brain to look for the things you want, you will begin to see them. In fact, the object of your desire has probably always existed around you, but your mind and eyes weren't open to seeing it. In reality, this is how the law of attraction really works. It is not the mysterious, esoteric voodoo it sometimes sounds like. It's far more simpler and more practical than that. We are bombarded with billions of sensory, visual, audio, and physical bytes of information each day. To keep ourselves from going insane, we ignore 99.9% of them, only really seeing, hearing, or experiencing those upon which our mind focuses. This is why when you think something, it appears that you are miraculously drawing it into your life. In reality, you're now just seeing... I got lost. You're now just seeing what was already there. You are truly attracting it into your life. It wasn't there before, accessible to you until your thoughts focused and directed your mind to see it. Makes sense? This isn't mysterious at all. It's actually quite logical. Now, with this new perception, whatever your mind is thinking internally is what it will focus on, and all of a sudden see within that 99.9% of remaining space. Here's a well-worn example, because it's so true. While shopping for or buying a new car, you probably start to see the model and make everywhere. You start to see that model and make everywhere, right? It seems like there are tons of them on the streets. All of a sudden, when they weren't there yesterday. But is that realistic? Of course not. They were there all along, but you weren't paying attention to them. Thus, they didn't really exist to you until you gave them your attention. When you define your goals, you give your brain something new to look for and focus on. It's as if you're giving your mind a new set of eyes through which to see all of the people, circumstances, conversations, resources, ideas, and creativity surrounding you. With this new perspective and inner itinerary, your mind proceeds to match up on the outside what you want most on the inside, your goals. It's that simple. The difference is how you experience the world and draw ideas, people, and opportunities into your life after you have clearly defined your goals is profound. In one of my interviews with Brian Tracy, he put it this way. My dumbass cameraman stopped the video, so we gotta get this last minute in, chat. Let's get it. When you define your goals, you give your brain something new to look for and focus on. It's as if you're giving your mind a new set of eyes through which to see all the people, circumstances, conversations, resources, ideas, and creativity surrounding you. With this new perspective and inner itinerary, your mind proceeds to match up on the outside what you want most on the inside, your goal. It's that simple. The difference is how you experience the world and draw ideas, people, and opportunities into your life after you have clearly defined your goals is profound. One of my interviews with Brian Tracy puts it this way: top people have very clear goals, they know who they are, and they know what they want. They write it down and they make plans for its accomplishment. Unsuccessful people carry their goals around in their head like marbles, rattling around in a can. And we say a goal that is not in writing is merely a fantasy. And everybody has fantasies, but those fantasies are like bullets with no powder in the cartridge. People go through life shooting blanks without written goals. And that's the starting point. There's been 20. All right, hold on. Let me finish this last passage and we'll be done. I suggest that you take some time today to make a list of your most important goals. I recommend considering goals in all aspects of your life, not just for your business or finances. Be wary of the high price of putting too much focus on any single aspect of your life to the exclusion of everything else. Go for whole life success, balancing all the aspects of life that are important to you: business, finances, health, and well-being, spirituality, family, and relationships, and lifestyle.